Okay, so we all know what a Green Lantern is, right? They are DC's premier space group that pollutes the galaxies. But did you know about a successor in the 31st century? If you've been to DC Con Space for a while like I have, you've probably heard about the Gold Lanterns through YouTube videos or trivia. Or not, I don't know y'all's lives. But if you haven't, let me talk to you about the unyielding and golden mess that is the Gold Lantern Corps created by Brian Michael Bendis in the year of our Lord, DC Rebirth. Now, just by hearing that name, you probably know where it's gonna go. So, the first thing we gotta establish is, what are the Gold Lantern Corps? The Gold Lantern Corps are the current Lantern Corps of the 31st century. The Gold Lantern Corps is actually just one man, and his name is Lour. Now, Kala is a blind Filipino teacher who, after saving some children from a fire, was summoned by the elders of Oa to become the first Gold Lantern. Now, Kala is not just a Gold Lantern, he's also a member of the Legion of Superheroes, which is basically the 31st century version of the Justice Society of America, or the Justice League. They are basically a giant family of superheroes trying to revitalize that age of heroes from the 21st century. So if you've ever seen pictures of him with two rings, the other is just his flight ring, which is kind of redundant when you think about it because he can already fly with his lantern ring, but that's not here nor there. Before we move into more about the Gold Lantern Corps, I feel like it's important to talk about Kala as a person. Something I find interesting about Kala are his morals. When he found out that the Green Lantern Corps was essentially a military, he expressly declined any involvement in the Gold Lantern Corps because, as stated by him in Justice League vs. Legion of Superheroes issue 2, I cannot bring one's idea of justice to a place where it might not be appropriate. I was raised to teach, to inspire. That is my path. He has this sort of Superman-like outlook of being a hero, which is to inspire people and to teach people to be better. The way being a teacher shapes how he views heroism and being a hero is very fascinating to me. Now, I also find him not liking the military to be interesting, since you really don't see a fully anti-military character in Big 2 comics, which is very interesting. But now, let's get into more talks about the Gold Lantern Corps in general. Now, I'm sure you noticed how I said nothing about his ring or what emotion it's tied to, since every lantern ring is powered by some emotion on the spectrum, green will, red rage, to name a few. You would expect me to mention what powers his rings. It's so important. The reason I did not bring it up is because we do not know what it is. In Kala's multiple appearances written by the same guy, Brian Michael Bendis, there is no mention of what the ring's power source is. There's no mention of how the ring was made. We don't know who the elders of Oa are because, according to Brainiac 5, they are not Guardians. Speaking of Brainiac 5, he said a lot of things when talking about the power ring. He said it's not similar to a green ring at all. So essentially, unless Bendis talks about it in an interview or at a later date, we know basically nothing about the ring. Speaking of theories, let's get into some of the theories people have for what the Gold Lantern's power source is. Lumos theromax had the theory that the power source is justice, due to multiple instances of justice being brought up and justice being a key source in the DC universe. One of the Gold Lantern is actually quite interesting, so I'll link it in the description, so go watch it after this one. Now, on to other theories. Oh, there isn't any more? Well, fuck. People don't really talk about the Gold Lanterns outside of hating him, the Gold Lanterns physically, hating Bendis, or just being ableist for some reason. Speaking on the lack of theory, I can't end this section off without giving my own theory as to what the power source could be. I have what I think is a solid idea of what it could be. Let's start with the most boring part of the theory, which is that it has nothing to do with the emotional spectrum at all, which I know is a big letdown and kind of boring, but let me explain. When we see how the ring is talked about, it's not similar to a Green Lantern ring at all. The elders of Oa, the ones who gave him the ring, have nothing to do with the Guardians at all. Everything about this leads me to think that the Gold Lanterns have nothing to do with the emotional spectrum, which what led me towards this theory specifically was that Kala met Alan Scott when all the legions got separated to the timeline. Now, in case you are a part of the uninitiated, Alan Scott is the Golden Age Green Lantern who has nothing to do with the Green Lantern Corps. In fact, he predates them by some years. His ring, which is powered by the Starheart, is more akin to magic than anything. So, using this knowledge and context, my whole idea is that I think the ring has something to do with the source, but more specifically, the light. Now, buckle up, because this is going to be a long one. The source for the uninitiated is the source of, well, everything in the DC Omniverse. Everything came from the source and will come back to the source. The light is one of the aspects of the presence, which is basically DC's version of God, which is an aspect of the source. It is the opposite of the great darkness. The great darkness, that is the embodiment of all darkness in the multiverse, and is the adversary to the light. The same great darkness that was wielded by Vandal Savage, who used it to fight the Legion of Superheroes, who only lost because he went up against Kala and the Gold Lantern Ring. So, TLDR, my theory is that the thing that powers the Gold Lantern power source is it actually the light of the source / presence. Now that we're done with that, let's get into the elephant in the room that I'm pretty sure you all want to hear me talk about. We're going to pivot a bit to talk about misinformation. Misinformation, as described by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is incorrect or misleading information. And oh boy, the history of the Gold Lanterns, especially on the internet, is full of it. If you go and search up a YouTube video about Gold Lanterns or go to any online source to find information, you'll probably hear that Gold Lanterns is powered by joy. This is a very common lie. Nowhere in any comic does the damn thing say it's joy. Then that lie needs to come from somewhere. Well, that lie comes from the DC Comics Cinematic Universe wiki, which is a fan-made wiki created by a random person. This wiki doesn't even mention Kala, who is the only Gold Lantern we know of. It instead has a ton of fake ones that do not exist, and generally, I have no issue one taking a drop concept and making it their own, because if they're not going to do anything with it, why not you use something with it? When stuff like that is misconstrued as canon, that is when I have a problem with it, because then it just leads to a ton of people saying incorrect information, which leads to a people perpetuating a lie. So do your research and just don't fall for misinformation. My closing thoughts on this whole ordeal with the Gold Lanterns is that I think the Gold Lanterns could be an interesting idea. It sadly had to have been created by a man like Brian Michael Bendis, who is notorious for dropping plot lines and leaving plot threads open. So maybe we'll never know what the power source is. Maybe a new writer will come in and give it a new chance at life. I personally doubt it though, since it seems like besides the John age up that he did, I think DC wants to pivot away from basically anything he did over at DC, especially because they've ignored Naomi. So I genuinely think that we're not going to get into the Gold Lanterns again, which I'm kind of sad about, but also not sad about, because, well, a lot of what Bendis did DC was not the best. But anyway, that's all I gotta say for that whole thing. You know, that's kind of my whole closing thoughts. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching this all the way through. If you have, this was my first video and I really tried my best, so it was bad, I apologize. But if you did get this far, make sure to like and subscribe and tell me what you want to see in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.